This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised. Good morning, and what a glorious way for our live safari to begin today. We've got a big bull elephant. This is Wild Earth. So it's an unusually warm morning here on the western fringes of the Great Limpopo Transfrontier Park, part of which is Djuma Private Game Reserve, where we find ourselves today. My name is James Hendry. On camera is BK Bokomoso. There is his thumb. And that elephant over there's name is Charles. No, it isn't. He doesn't actually have a name at all. His name is Mr. Bull Elephant. Please do talk to us during the course of the show. You can do so on Twitter using the hashtag WildEarth. Otherwise, the chat streams on YouTube or Twitch will work. Alternatively, if you're under 18, you can send us an email to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Bit of a swagger in his step, this chap. He's probably about 25 to 30 years old. And that kind of head-bobbing swagger there is often associated with must, their heightened time of testosterone when they're looking for ladies. He's not massive yet. He is, but he's going to get bigger. So that swagger was purely for our benefit. You can see now he's walking normally. We didn't react. Well, that was really interesting, actually. How he did that little display for us and then moved off. Right, Lauren is not far from me. In fact, I can see her just across the way there. Let's go and see what she's got.
Oh, I actually can't see James. But yes, I'm sure he's not too far away from me at all. Good morning, everyone. Welcome on board. We are looking at our regulars, the wildebeest, who are clearly just waking up, not had their coffee injection yet. My name is Lauren. I do have Niels on camera today, and it's a chilly, chilly morning here. Excuse you. There's actually a herd of zebra over there. They walked away. They've got a little foal with them, one stallion and many, many mares. And we'll try and get another look at them as we drive past. But they've completely walked up. Now, I have good news for you all. Mr. Swazi came into camp. Yes, he did. He came into camp last night, did a lot of, well, he destroyed many things, but my point is he no longer has the snare on anymore. I really don't think it was a snare. I don't. I think he put his head somewhere silly and got some wire wrapped around him trying to get some delicious food or trying to steal or trying to cause trouble. But whatever it was loose. I personally don't feel it was a snare, and it's gone. So I just want to confirm to everyone, Swazi no longer has a wire necklace. And we know this because we saw it with our own eyes when he wandered into camp. So that's great news, everyone. You can all stop worrying. I know many of you have been worrying. The Sabi Sands have been informed. There was a lot of investigating, but it definitely does not appear to be a snare, which is also really good news. Hyenas are known to get themselves in all sort of trouble. And clearly, Swazi did just that. So I'm actually on my way to the den, and I want to head there now. I don't want to waste any time because I want to try and catch Corky. I have a funny feeling Corky could be nocturnally suckling. And, well, it's definitely not nighttime anymore, but I'm hoping that I can possibly catch her before she wanders off for the day. I don't want to get too waylaid with the wildebeest. I think we need to head and see if we can somehow spot Corky. She has to be looking after this little one. And considering I spend about 6 hours a day there, I think it's really fascinating that we haven't seen her just yet. So quick, brief look at the zebra, and then I will race to the den to try and see Corky. So hopefully, we will get lucky today.
So warm welcome to everyone. We're here at Ambion Lingala, and just have a look at the beautiful sunrise. You can't see the sun at the moment. It's just such a beautiful morning. We're actually on our way into the southern part of the reserve to see if there's any chances of possibly finding some lions. So remember yesterday, I know Barney had some lions that he saw with the porcupine. So this morning we're going to go and see if we can find them again. And also we're going to have hands from Richard, as well as Ernie, to see if there's any signs of possibly leopard up in the central parts of the reserve. But later on, as soon as there's a little bit more light, I'll show you on the map where we're going to be driving this morning. But for me, I'm Nikki here at Ambion Lingala, and with me on the camera is Owen. So I think what we're going to do is let's carry on with our adventure. We're actually driving down this way, so it's in a southerly direction, to go see if we can find some lights. You know what I might do? I think there might be enough light just to show everyone through the map here. Now, if I look right over here, so we basically in this little open section here. So see this green patch on this card? So we're right there, and we are heading down in this direction here. And so some of the other guys are giving us a hand, and they're starting to search in this area here to possibly see if there's any chance of a leopard. But this is south, this over here is east, that's west, and then north is this side here. So we're going to go south. So when we speak about going south, it's in this town, in this direction, and hopefully we can find those lions. But I think for now, let's carry on and take you on this little adventure this morning. Luckily, it's not too cold. I think there was a cold front that was expected to hit us today. But hopefully it doesn't hit us too soon. It's actually quite a nice morning. I do say I missed all the viewers as well. It felt like it's been quite a while, but hopefully it won't be too long again. But as I said, it's a beautiful morning. It is warming up. I just want to quickly have a look. There's a little owl sitting on this tree right here. Just want to grab the binoculars. So you'll see there's a bit of a silhouette right over there. I'm going to have a look. That's you. I don't know if you can notice, but on this little owl, when it turns its head, you'll notice there's two very prominent black spots behind the head. Almost looks like eyes. This is called a pearl-spotted owlet. There we go. Can you notice the black behind the head there? And it's quite a small owl. I mean, just to compare... Oh, there he goes. So I think for now, let's carry on. But this little owl has probably one of the most interesting calls in Africa. It starts off with like this high pitch. It's like a very loud call. Like sometimes at night you'll think it's a lot bigger bird that's calling, and then when you get there, the owl is basically, if you had to take both your hands together like this and put them together, like it will probably be the size of two fists together. So it's not a big owl. It's not as big as the Verreaux's eagle owl, or maybe some of the like spotted eagle owls. It's a lot smaller, and of course the other birds don't like them at all. So as soon as they see the owls, they often try and chase them away. You'll even see them dive bombing onto the owls to try and just chase them. But really nice find this morning. It's a good start. So we also, as we are carrying on towards these lions, I mean, we are going into quite a nice open area. So this is a possibility for cheetah. I mean, another possibility is potentially wild dogs, but it is still early part of the morning. So wild dogs this time of the year would be around a den site. So this is when they have their pups. Anytime, like it started already in May, but for the next 3 or 4 months, that's when they could possibly have their dens. And then and as it starts warming up, I mean, they'll move in. I mean, Dizzy was asking very good. Oh, she's asking, as one of the requests, to try and find a live porcupine. We're going to definitely try and see it. I'm sure with some of those lions, they had so many quills in them, they might be one of the live porcupines. But I think let's try. It's going to be really hard. I think this would be the best time now. Would have been early in the evening, best time for porcupine. But as soon as it warms up, the porcupines are going to move, of course, into the burrows for the day. So not an easy request, but we'll try. We'll just have to try. So Stephanie, with the map, the different colors, I'll just quickly want to have a look as we're driving. Just want to quickly go, because I mean, with the colors, I'll just have to double check, because I didn't think I looked at all the different colors. I'm going to quickly stop right over here just to have a look here. Okay, so basically the different colors is just the habitat type. So if you look on this side here, so the green is what we refer as to a knobthorn savanna. So in other words, the soil here is like a gabbro. So most of the bigger trees that we find in this area is known as a knobthorn. So, and I'm going to ask, so see those two big trees there right in front of us? So see the two in the distance? So those are the knobthorns. So when they're young, they have, or even as they get some of the younger trees, the older ones tend to lose the knobs. But when they're young, they have these very big knobs all around the base of the tree with little thorns on them. And that's predominantly this habitat that we find here. Once we get to the central part, we have more of like a bushveld woodland, so you're probably finding more of what is known as a bush willow that you find in the area, and also the silver cluster leaves. And then when you go to the top here, so you can see there's 3 major vegetation types. So if you go to the top, it's the mupani woodland, so mainly mupani trees. That's the tree that has the 2 leaves that looks like a butterfly. But those are that's just the main habitat type. The red is just where we have camps. So up here is where Ngala Safari Lodge would be, and just down here is where tented is. So this is where Owen and I drove from this morning. So down here at this part right here. But I think for now, let's carry on with our little mission and see what other interesting animals and birds we can possibly find this morning.
Good morning and welcome to Pridelands, where the last few days seem to be filled with hyenas. And this one is just sitting. I think we actually woke it up, but we're quite far away from it. I was wondering what we're looking at. We couldn't possibly be looking at a hyena. Off it goes. We'll try and catch up with it. I think if we maybe go around, we might get another view. But my name is TAYLA MCCURDY, and on camera with me today is Gert. And like I said, we're here at Pridelands, which is a part of the greater Kruger ecosystem. And we've come out to this open area just to have a look to see if anybody has been walking through here. And it was quite funny, actually. We were driving up a road just to the east of us, and both Gert and I stopped almost in our tracks because we were, our nose is filled with this horrible scent of feces. And I think it was from that hyena. We couldn't find anything anywhere, but it was definitely somewhere around there. So I don't know why the hyena is just here, if it's just a coincidence and it's just resting up, or is there something a little bit more to do in this drainage line. So I think we'll do some investigating. We'll drive on some of the little roads. I think it's, you can't see it anymore, hey? It's gone. Okay, let's go up a little bit further and see what else is happening. But I'll just quickly finish a quick update that I want to give you from last night. Yesterday, in the Sunset Safari, we were at the hyena den, which was really cool, and I said I haven't seen the adults there for quite some time. I kid you not, 3 minutes after I said that, 2 females came to the den and were suckling their cubs, which was really awesome. We did try and go live, but just our signal, we were just struggling a little bit, but I'm happy to say that the den is still quite active. There's a nice little bird party going on over here, so I'm just going to don't fly. Don't be ridiculous, birds. We're miles away. Just to see what they're up to, because there's quite a few different species just down on the ground. There they are. So we'll just have a look at them for a minute. There's some southern red-billed hornbills and some Burchell starlings, and I think there were also some Cape glossy starlings too. There comes the very bossy and bigger hornbill species of the 2 that we can see. And most mornings, if you come through here, there's a bird party on the ground. So there must be some active, maybe harvester termites, which don't build big mounds that protrude out of the earth, but rather below the earth's surface. They might be there, or maybe even the harvester ants that I have showed you before. But now it seems to be a race as to who can eat the most, as they all fight with one another and chase each other away. So we know birds become quite social. I mean, you do get obviously social species of birds, but you know, to see different types of birds all interacting with one another is really good for, you know, safety in numbers. And normally when they move in a bird party of sorts, they'll flush out insects at different levels, and each bird that feeds at a certain level can benefit from that. But when they're all competing for the same food source on the ground, you will start to see a lot of competition and a lot of sort of chasing one another around and pecking at each other. You're just taking a bit of a rest there. You're quite full, red-billed hornbill. Also a bit cold this morning. Although I think we're in for a hot day, and I think it might be the last of the hot days before the cold fronts hit South Africa. And then you'll just hear us complaining again about the freezing cold. So, Taylor, I suppose each bird has various colorations for their own reasons. I mean, birds obviously are normally brightly colored, and typically it's the males to attract one another. But imagine if we all looked the same too. Like, we've all got different eye colors, we've all got different hair colors. Some of us are taller than others, some of us are shorter, some are more round than others. And, you know, I can go on and on and on and talk about all the differences. So it's just unique to kind of each species. It's for the hornbills, it's quite normal to have black and white plumage of some sort. I think all the hornbill species that we see in southern Africa have all got some black or white plumage on them. Obviously, even the southern ground hornbill, which is the largest one, is predominantly black with white under its wings. But there's no real significance to it. I don't see how it really aids them too much in camouflage. They've got wings. They can fly away from any threats if they sort of need to. They're not trying to sort of conceal themselves. You might find that birds that live in forests and up in the tops of canopies of trees might be more camouflaged to suit their surroundings. But out here, when you're feeding out in the open like this, I don't think it matters too much. Like I said, they can fly. They're feeding in groups. They've always got to be careful of the threats up in the sky as raptors, and then of course down on the ground, jackals and the various cat species and things like that. But I suppose it's just their genetics, and starlings obviously have different types of feathers. They've got iridescence in their feathers, so when they're in the shade they look black, but as they go out into the open they have those beautiful shimmering greens, blues and purples. Krishna, so the species of starlings that we see here, like you could probably see in South Africa or the Lowveld, so the one we just had a look at, which is the Birchall starling, and it's got a very long tail. And then I'm sure you've maybe occasionally seen the Meave starling too, which also has a very long tail, but we would see that's a little bit maybe further north up in the Kruger National Park area. Then we tend to see the greater blue-eared starling, but obviously all the birds have now flown away. I thought some more of them would maybe land in the tree, but they haven't. So I say greater blue-eared starling, the Birchall starling. We'll do the ones that we can see here at Pridelands. Then, of course, the Cape glossy starling. Sometimes you could see what is wrong with me now? Wattled starlings occasionally, but they move around a fair amount. They don't necessarily stay in one area. They're not sort of a residence. And then the violet-backed starlings, which are really awesome. So I would say I'm just checking about five species of starlings that we can see. The red-winged starlings, which are also really big, I prefer a different sort of area, but that I haven't seen here. But maybe as you go towards the Drakensberg Mountains, you could see them too.
So earlier on, I heard that I said it's the evening. So I just want to correct myself. We're not looking at the sunset. We're looking at the sunrise with a beautiful marula tree off to the right. So as we're sitting here and just watching this beautiful sunrise, we're also trying to listen out for potentially those lions that might be roaring. Yesterday I heard from Barney that the Ross males weren't with the rest of the pride, so the males aren't there. And because they're not there, they might want to join up with the rest of the pride. And also that lioness with the small youngsters might eventually start wanting to join up with the pride again. So there might be a chance that we could hear them courting this morning. Often early in the morning and later afternoon is probably going to be the best time to listen out for that. Safari Kitty, like how beautiful is the sunrise and how beautiful is that tree off to the right. So Owen said that if we give him a packet of crunchies and a good coffee, he'll lie down like a leopard on the one branch. We can get him, the tree and the sunrise. I just forgot the packet this morning. Definitely just look at the different colors. I mean, it starts off with like a bright white, a bit of a glimpse of yellow around the side, and then that orange just on that eastern horizon. It's just so beautiful. And what's also quite nice is is just seeing the color of the grass as well, because the grass between us and the sun will now have this bit of a backlight in this golden color. It's definitely a special morning.
We have got here, well, a slightly orange vulture. He's just turned orange, actually. The back of his head has turned orange as the sun has peeped up. We've come to the south of the reserve. We did find some tracks of a male leopard around, how do I best describe this? Quite near to our dam cam, where apparently there was a leopard sighted earlier today, but that was about an hour and a half ago. So we're looking down in the general direction that the tracks headed. This vulture was in exactly the same place yesterday, has not moved one branch. Obviously likes the view from up there. I think that if there were any rotting morsels of meat nearby, he'd have attracted some friends by now. So I think his presence here is probably entirely incidental. George, vultures are quite partial to quiche Lorraine, but other than quiche Lorraine, it's only carrion, generally. That's obviously a lie. They don't eat quiche Lorraine at all. There are a few vultures who do kill their own prey from time to time, and you're looking at one of them, the white-backed vulture and the lappet-faced vulture. Both have been known to kill their own prey, but I suspect that's very opportunistic, and that almost all of the time they are eating carrion. So yeah, look, they will take any opportunity they can to eat. I'm sure that if a vulture like this landed on a tree and a lizard happened to pop its head out of a hole, he would snaffle up that lizard very gratefully. But they don't have the strength in the talons to be able to effect kills frequently or on very large prey. So whereas the strength in, say, a crowned eagle is such that they'll be able to drive the rear claw through the skull of a monkey, and in a martial eagle, for example, I often tell the story of a chap I heard of who had a martial eagle that he raised from a chick and then used for falconry, because it wasn't a bird that he could release, or I'm not sure why he used it for falconry actually. And he had a very thick leather, sort of half-inch thick leather arm strap, and the martial eagle actually broke his wrist through that leather arm strap, not in an aggressive fashion, just squeezing gently. And so they are designed specifically to kill things with their talons, whereas the vulture does not have anything like that kind of strength. No, Veronica, vultures are not territorial. They have home range areas, but they do not have territories. Now, BK, I'm not going to ask you to move, but I'm going to tell you that I'm looking at I think it's an elephant shrew. It is. It's an elephant shrew. See if you can... Just quickly swing this way, BK. We might get a view. It's either an elephant shrew or a little bushveld gerbil. I've been looking behind us. I've been hearing it scuffling about in here since we stopped. I'm going to roll very slightly forward. It's a very cute little thing. It was at the base of this tree. But if BK had moved, it would have just skedaddled. Let's just sit quietly. It might pop its head out. Pop its head out. All right, let's carry on. I hear a little bit of bird alarming up ahead. Maybe there's something of use down there.
Oh, that would have been amazing. I think elephant shoes are one of my favorites. Here we go. So we're still with the birds. We've just been actually listening. So we've got a Birchall starling and now the very bossy crested barbets that I think are probably the most territorial of the bird species that we've seen coming through to this party, as demonstrated by the bird on the bottom right as it chased away the starling. Look at them, not having any of it. So I'm quite happy to say that those are definitely harvester termites that are there. You can see, look at all the cut grass that's just been sort of deposited on the ground. That's very characteristic of an entrance sort of tunnel to the harvester termites. They'll cut up pieces of grass and bring them back and then take them below the surface of the earth. So I think there's also a couple of little ants I can see moving around very delicately. So there's an abundance of insect life this morning. So here's a really good example of a bird that typically eats fruit all the time when it can, but at this time of the year, as we go into dry season in the low veld, there's no fruit available on any of the trees. I'm actually trying to think. I haven't seen anything just yet. There's very few. There's actually no flowers on any of the trees yet either. So they've got to change their diet and feed on insects. And it was super interesting to watch the hornbills and then the barbets feed together. Obviously, the bill of a hornbill is designed to flick leaves and scoop sand out of the way so that they can eat insects, whereas a barbet has got a beak that's sort of more suited to feeding on fruit and cutting open flowers and feeding on nectar and that type of thing. So it almost looks like they struggle a little bit or aren't as efficient as the starlings and the hornbills. It's one's just over there. But they still manage to make do, of course. I think that's the male, the one that we're looking at now. There's quite a bit of red on its, on sort of its crown, as you can see, or its forehead, sorry. Whereas there's not much sexual dimorphism between the two, but the females are just less brightly colored and have a little bit of less red on there. But if the other one does fly back and we get a good view, we might be able to ID the two of them. But that just also goes to show that they're monogamous and they spend a lot of time together. But it's not breeding season yet. They've still got a few more months to go, or maybe 2 or 3 more months, depending when the rainy season comes about. Very busy. Linda, yes, this is a punk rock bird, but it doesn't have flowers in its hair, unfortunately. Now, they're very colourful, very dramatic, and then, well, they don't really sing the nicest tune. They have that very sort of high-pitched monotonous sort of call that sometimes can give you a bit of a headache, but not doing that this morning. They're normally also one of the first birds that you hear between the white-browed scrub robins chirping, and then you'll often hear that tune coming from the tops of the trees as they try to warm up. That's quite cool. I'm just trying to think. There was another bird. Where's the crowned lapwing gone now? Probably flown away. They're quite far. Let's drive up a little bit further. So, George, crested barbets are highly adaptable birds because they're able to feed on so many different things, obviously predominantly fruit and insects. So they're not sort of limited to living in one area. So they could be out here in these open places, or they also move into the riverine areas where you might get fig trees and jackalberries and the various fruiting trees. But if you're talking about nesting, they will nest in sort of natural cavities, in trees or stumps, and because they're so aggressive, they'll often evict. Can you see something? Okay, I'm going to stop here. Gert has seen something. The lapwing. Perfect. So they're quite aggressive, and they're known to evict other birds that have already, are already nesting in certain areas or have occupied that space. Has it gone? Oh no, there it is. It's still. We got it. There it is. So that's where they will typically live. Starlings do much the same. They also live in natural cavities, and I suppose hornbills. So it's quite funny. We've got all the birds that will utilize holes in trees. This bird, however, does not live in a tree hole or a tree cavity. It normally keeps its feet firmly on the ground unless it's flying up to mob something. So this is the crowned lapwing. They're almost like the police of the birds. They're constantly telling everybody off, but for good reason. So they nest down on the ground. Again, it's a little bit too early for breeding season, so I don't think that they're going to be too protective over this little scrape on the ground, which they'll create and lay their very camouflaged their eggs on the floor. But it will be a problem around maybe next month, September, October, when the baboons come and graze and browse through this open plain. I think that these birds are going to be working overtime. But this is perfect habitat for them. They don't really like areas where the grass gets too long. So this sort of sparse vegetation, and obviously normally in open areas the grass gets cropped down quite short by the various grazing species of animals, which makes for the most ideal area. So there's very few places that we see the crowned lapwings, but if you come to Impala Plains, you're almost guaranteed a sighting. And we did have a nice sighting of them bopping the baboons on the head just a few days ago. But they're just running around now. Also got specially designed beaks to feed on insects. They don't really eat any seeds and they don't eat any fruit. So they've got their work cut out for them at this time of the year. But you can see it's clever. Going to look around that log. See that stump there? Now that's maybe a good spot where insects could be hiding, trying to take refuge from the cold and also just from being out in the open area. Just going back to the hornbills that we saw earlier, Buddy, the hornbill species that we see are pretty much residents. So the southern ground hornbill, the southern red-billed and yellow-billed hornbills, the trumpeter and the crown, those are the species that we can see in this area. They're all residents. It's just it depends on what they eat. So the trumpeters and the crown hornbills, which typically feed on a lot of fruit, you'll probably find them around areas where there's lots of sycamore figs that can fruit more than once a year. They'll be hanging around the riverine systems, and the others you can almost find anywhere. These crown hornbills, crown lapwings as well, they don't migrate either. This is one of our many residents, but they will, like I said, depending if the grass gets too long during rainy season, they might move to an area that's a little bit more suited for their habitat. It'd be very difficult for them to run around in the tall grass. They wouldn't be able to see anything. They're not like the long claws, which is a smaller type of bird. It also almost looks like a pipit or a lark. Not really. Slightly more colorful, but they've got a very long special toe that allows them to grab the grass stalks and sort of bounce around on top of the grass, which is really fascinating. So they can live in the long grass, but it's actually quite difficult for predominantly ground-dwelling birds to move around where the grass is too tall. But this is, like I said, this is perfect. There's nice bare open patches and they can move around easily, and there's also an abundance of food from termites to ants and grasshoppers and various caterpillar species. And maybe even underneath those logs they could find the odd scorpion or something like that to feed on. So it just means that you have to be a bit creative on where you look for your food, but it's around. But I think we might end up doing a birding morning at this rate, so we'll head down to a different area to see which other feathered friends we can find.
So we just saw some impala in the distance, but have a look at the different colors, especially now this early part of the morning. There's actually a few of them. The one just off to the left from there, where that group is in the middle, you'll notice the one standing on the side. And I think all it's doing now is just enjoying that early morning sun, and probably also just looking around to see if there's any danger in the area. Just look at his mouth moving. So I think he might even be ruminating, like bringing up all that food that he's probably been feeding off this morning, chewing it, breaking it down, and then swallowing it again. But how beautiful is that landscape? Ooh, and even right through here, just off to our right, you can actually see the Drakensberg in the distance. So if we go over there, I'm just going to move my head out of the way. But if you look right over there in the back, you'll see the mountains of this. Now apparently there was a cold front coming through, and if that would have carried on the way that it did from Cape Town, we could have expected snow on this mountain. So I don't think I can see any snow as of yet, so that's good news, or else it's going to be so cold. Snazzy, it all depends. I mean, with animals, even like if you look at the Great Migration that occurs in Tanzania and Kenya, I mean, there's no specific date that it happens. Like there is a season or a couple of months that it could occur, but it's almost like the animals will start getting ready. And as soon as the first few groups start moving, then all the rest will then start following them from there. So I don't think there's a specific set time for everything, but there is definitely a season. So normally it's associated with food, water, and as well so in some areas because of predators. So the more pressure on the predator, eventually the animals will then start moving on from there. But then what normally happens is the predators will eventually follow them, or try to follow them, especially with great zebra or wildebeest movements. But in general, it's mainly food and water that's going to be or even if there's some fire in an area, that could be a possible option for them to move. But I think with these impalas, there's no need for them to move at all, because like you can just imagine this whole area, there's just, even though it's dry and you can see the colors are very dull, there's still a lot of food around, and I mean, there's still a bit of water, so they have to move quite a bit to get to water. But at least there is still some in this area. But I can imagine if there was no water at all, then the animals would probably just move here to feed and then immediately have to move back. Because animals like buffalo, waterbuck, wildebeest, zebra are pretty water dependent and need to drink quite often.
We had a crested barbet. Oh, we still got one there. Fantastic. Well done, BK. I believe TAYLA showed you one of these a little bit earlier. We're just hearing some noises down south, and I think somebody's changing a tyre. We thought maybe it was a strange animal, but it doesn't appear to be. Now, BK, do you know what you've spotted there? You're the only cameraman in history who's ever got these birds on camera. That's the third grey-headed bushrike we've had in the last little while. It's gone. I think that mechanical sound is probably not something we should follow up on. You don't want to find somebody fixing a tractor. We'll carry on up here. Here's a nice little herd of impalas that is sitting in the sun. Unfortunately, they are not alarm calling at any predators. But that's all right. Why should they? They're having a happy time. They'll just stop up ahead. Hello, Krishna. I think that honour goes to the hammerkop, or hammerhead bird. They have got a nest that can weigh up to 100 kilograms. And it's made of all sorts of detritus. They'll pick up sticks and things, and then if they live near human habitation, they'll pick up human waste. By that I don't mean excreta. I mean things like old shoes and that sort of stuff. And they'll use those to put in their nest, and bits of tape and milk bottles and that sort of thing. And what's really bizarre about the massive nest that they build is that they often only use it once. So they'll repeat the process each time they breed, which it just seems bizarre to me to expend that level of energy and then only use your home once. This is very pretty, BK. Very pretty shots of impalas. Oh, buffalo shouting up ahead. I don't think it's a buffalo being killed. I think it's just a buffalo belching. Patrick, oxpeckers don't actually nest all the time. Very few birds nest full time. They only nest when they breed most of the time. And oxpeckers are no different. They will leave the animals they've been following for the day, however, at dusk and go off and roost in a tree somewhere. So they don't go back to a nest, but they will roost in a safe place in a tree for the night and then come down at first light, like most birds. Ooh, it's going to be hot today. Let's go and see what's going on with those buffalo, just for in case they are being set upon by the Nkuhuma pride. Well, okay, I think the chances are nigh on zero. Thank you, impalas. That was very beautiful indeed. Yes. Well done, BK. Some zebra up ahead. We can have a look at them. Have another listen for the buffalo. And remember, if you want to talk to us, you can do so using the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. Otherwise, the chat streams on YouTube or Twitch, or the email address kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. How very interesting that suddenly the zebra have arrived. Over the last 3 days or so, we've had some zebra action, whereas they have been absent for, I don't know, it seems like months. They were on the clearings outside of camp today as well. You can hear a brew calling there. Strange sound behind us. Grunting noise. You hear it? Carly, the hoof is a little bit like one big toenail, except it isn't a toenail so much as it's a... I mean, it's made of the same stuff as toenails, but what it is basically a combination of 3 digits that finish at the end of the foot and then are enclosed in the hoof. So where if you take your, I think it's the 3 middle fingers, if you take your 3 middle fingers, so your phalanges, and combine them and then put a cap over the top of them, you've basically got the idea of a zebra's hoof. Or a horse's hoof, or a donkey's hoof, or a wild ass's hoof. Here comes another 2. Hello, George. No, these zebras wouldn't be in danger of leopards unless the leopard was very large and probably fairly psychotic. A leopard wouldn't take on an adult zebra. You know, big male leopard, really big male leopard weighs in the region of 80 kilograms. Big male zebra weighs in the region of 350 kilograms. So the size differential is just too great. You'll find there are records of leopards killing zebra. Most likely big male leopard, very small zebra. Zebra foals for sure, absolutely. But once a zebra gets to that sort of size, really there's no chance, unless it's sick. It's really unlikely that it would be killed by a leopard. You'll notice that I couch things like that always in fairly uncertain language, because, as I often say, the quickest way to end up with egg in your face is to make some kind of definite statement about what animals do or don't do, because you can almost guarantee that they will do exactly what you said that they won't, straight after you've said it. Right, there go our zebras. We're going to move up the road here, see if we can find the buffaloes. They were quite far up here. It's another zebra. It's unbelievable. Suddenly they've all arrived. Right, we're going to stop here and have another listen for the buffalo.
So now I've got my head dangled off the side of the car and just looking for some tracks. We haven't actually seen any leopard tracks or any... We did see some old lion tracks from the other afternoon. But otherwise it's been very, very quiet. Just the soft rumblings of a lion last night and then early this morning. So we're sort of making our way towards the southwest to just check those areas to see if that one, it sounds like one of the young male lions, maybe even the one that's got a slight limp, is just separated and now on his own. Lots of impala tracks. Also just checking in these sunny spots around Leopard Dam to see if there's a duiker, but it's running away, so we won't be able to see that. But to see if there's any leopard or lion or anything like that lying around here, sorry. But nope, not much, I'm afraid. Just lots of signs that elephants were here. It's quite funny not seeing not even one elephant around Leopard Dam for the last 4 days now. But it was pretty amazing how were almost guaranteed to drive down Marula Lane or to come to Leopard Dam and you would at least find one breeding herd of elephants. So they've had a good go at all these marula trees now. Most of them, I feel like they've actually all been completely ring-barked, which is a bit sad, but it is what it is. And that's just how it goes, and this is normal for elephants to do that. I wonder if that's going to be a more favoured tree now that it has been ring-barked like that. Because you can see they've also used it as a rubbing post. You see how smooth it is. You can't really see the texture of the bark anymore. But I think those ripped-up pieces of the outer layer of the bark would be quite nice and be like a little bit of a scrubbing brush for the elephants. So we shall see when they do return. I have no doubt that it won't be too long before they move back into this area. But as we know, it's normal. They'll feed on lots of trees and in little bubbles destroy, but that's not really what they're doing. An area, and then they'll move out, give it time to rehabilitate, and then come back in. But we shall carry on through this little... It's actually my favorite little section here. So lots of tambuti trees. The lions have been in here so many times and you don't even see them because it's so thick. The grass is quite tall. The buffalo also like to feed around here. But it's just really nice little section. The other side is also quite cool on the eastern side of Leopard Dam too. I'm going through there, but there the trees are really tall and sort of packed densely right across the road, well, right next to the road, sorry. Corinne, the reason why I know that it was an old lion's track is because 2 afternoons ago we sat with 2 male lions just about 100, 200 meters from where we had seen those tracks this morning, and I know that those male lions got up and walked in the direction of where those tracks were. Then also looking at the tracks, they weren't on the road, and there were no lion tracks on the road. They would have had to have crossed it, so that says to me that the tracks were driven over, and you could see how deteriorated they were. It's been very windy. Not yesterday, but yesterday the wind picked up, but the day before that was horrifically windy, and the tracks were very sort of had quite a bit of sand and debris blown over them, so they just weren't nice, crisp tracks. We then also know that those two male lions moved up and into Jajani, where those 2 and 4 lionesses chased a leopard out of the trees just north of our traverse, or northeast of our traverse, and stole the leopard's impala kill. So they could have come back. It's all the way in the very, very far east though. So for us to get there, it's a bit tricky, and the signal is not too great. So that's why we're going to just check this area where we've seen the female leopard with the 2 cubs, the pixie pan female, and the Shimungwe male leopard likes to live around here. And also the 2 younger male lions that we have seen, that we saw initially on a buffalo kill, which happened just to my right. This sort of seems to be the safe space where they hang around and they avoid the other 2 big males. And they sort of move around here and they pop into Jajani and then go all the way down towards our most southern boundary. But we're going to keep searching around here and hopefully it will all pay off.
Good morning, everyone. It is great to see you all, and it's fantastic having you with us at Swala Kalahari this morning. Wherever you may be in the world, whatever you're doing, sitting down at home, relaxing, maybe flying somewhere, whatever you're doing, it's just fantastic having you with us. Jandre is always on camera, and I'm Dylan, and together we're just going to show you some really special things in the Kalahari today. Thankfully, the wind has died down. There is still a bit of a breeze this morning, but it's a lot calmer than it was yesterday. It's not as cold as it was yesterday. So I think that front is still moving up in our direction. But we're just going to enjoy this weather while we've got it. The meerkats did eventually go out yesterday afternoon, but it was yesterday morning, but it was quite a long time after we actually left here. And then they got back to the burrows early, and that would have been as a direct result of that very, very windy, cold weather that we had. So I'm going to predict that they're probably going to be coming out shortly after sunrise. Sunrise is about another 10 minutes away, give or take, maybe a little bit longer. But we've just got this magnificent orange glow out towards the mountains now. And I think if they didn't have a good foraging day yesterday, they're probably going to be out early and out and about. But look at that scenery. Look at that sunrise. And it is just such a privilege being able to share this with everyone. And don't forget to ask us questions. Whatever it is, challenge us. Let's see if we can help you. Let's see if we can get some answers for you. And just let's enjoy this journey together.
We have got our buffalo. They're not being set upon by any voracious predator. In fact, the most terrifying thing that they can see right now is us, as they wander gingerly across the road, looking left and right, making sure that a bus isn't coming. And they're probably heading towards a place known as Torchwood Dam, which is, well, as its name suggests, a waterhole. BK, there's one giving us a lovely display in the middle of the road there, the golden sunlight, making a particularly attractive colour, I suppose, sparkling. The buffalo is the only animal I know of that has that strange pulsing action as it relieves itself. It is, well, I mean, I think it's very amusing myself. I find that sight thoroughly funny. On he goes. I suspect that this group spent the night probably snoozing in the cold hours, and then just before dawn got up for a good graze, and then they have now decided to head off towards some water to have a drink. Some of them have taken offense at something and started running behind us, but now they're looking at us. They don't seem to be looking at anything more scary than that. Here are a few more coming out now, BK, if you want them. It's an oldish cow emerging with a baby. No, Patrick, the hoof structure on the buffalo is not the same as that of the zebra, because the buffalo has got a cloven hoof. Now, I have forgotten exactly which digits go into which cloves of the buffalo's hoof. I think it's basically everything but the thumb. So the thumb is left out, and the other two go into each of the two cloves of the hoof. But I could be wrong there. I have a distinct picture in my mind of a diagram of the bone structure of a horse's hoof, but I don't have such a clear picture in my small brain of a cloven hoof. Right, in fact, I have managed to find a diagram. Give me 1 second and I shall explain. Yes, I think that's right. It would seem to be the what qualifies the ring finger, middle finger, the index finger, middle finger, ring finger, and baby finger that go into the hoofs, and it's 2 and 2 in each, as far as I can make out. I'll have to go and look it up properly. Good question, thank you. And you can hear them belching and burping along. I don't know what that means, Tamsin. Oh, look at that, BK. Another great example. Tamsin, I'm not sure what you mean. The dangly toe, I assume you mean is, well, I'm guessing is the dew claw you're talking about. So if you happen to have a dog or cat nearby, a cat is a particularly nice example, pick it up, make sure it doesn't savage you, like my mother's cat would, and you can see what Tamsin's talking about. It's a dew claw, it's the thumb, which is just further up the wrist. Or not the wrist, it's sort of between the wrist and the toes. Now, that you will find allegories, is that the correct word, of those bones in all mammals, but sometimes they're fused. And in the case of cloven-hooved animals, they are normally fused. But buffalo do have these dew claw type protuberances at the end of their hooves. and one of them might be the thumb joint, but I'm not sure. Ah, now here we go. I've managed to discover a very interesting little thing. Yes, I'm just not sure that it's actually true though. So, this one diagram I have says that for a... Yeah, that's interesting actually. There's two diagrams have shown me that for a zebra, for example, it's actually only the middle one that ends up in the hoof. The others just kind of disappear. They fuse. No, they do. They fuse onto the others. I suspect there's probably a certain amount of interpretation involved. Anyway, there it is. Oh, there's a great deal of enthusiastic running now going on. Not sure why. Well, as the dust settles, we'll carry on and try and find out.
We've made it to the den. And, well, same beautiful scenario as every morning. Ribbon is here with her two little ones. They're squittering. Can you hear them? So with the two older boys, I hope you can hear that. The squittering is quite vocal. Now, the little one that's inside can't make that vocalization yet. So it's a very, very high-pitched squeal that you can hear from coming inside. Whereas these two boys, they are definitely making the squittering sound. I hope you can all hear it. Normally it's a little bit louder and frantic than that. But right now I think they're just pacifying themselves. It's a very sweet moment. Now, I don't imagine Ribbon will have stayed here all night. But when we left yesterday, she was here, and when we arrived this morning, she's here. But she needs to feed, so I imagine she will have wandered during the night and then came back to the den. Neva, I didn't stay after drive. I'm afraid we leave. So I didn't see Corky. we left at the end of drive, no sign of corks. Can hear the little one screaming earlier, so the little one's definitely still inside, but no sign of Corky, I'm afraid. But I'm planning to spend a fair bit of time here today. Oops, sorry. And hopefully the little cub will pop his head out. It popped his head out about 9 a.m. yesterday. So I'm sure it's not on a schedule, but I'm hoping that once it gets a little bit warmer and you can start to feel the heat from the sun, that those little cubs will pop their heads out. Krishna, there's currently 5 adults in the clan. There are Ribbon and Intima, mother-daughter duo. And then there's Heart, and then there's June and Corky. And that's not necessarily in the correct order, but there's 5 sexually mature adults. Ribbon's got 2 little cubs, and of course Corky's got 1 inside. Then there's also the sub-adults. We believe that we have lost some, but we see Pretty's 2 regularly. Pretty is no longer with us, and that's Swazi and Indabele. They're very much still around. We see Sutu a lot. Sutu and Swana belong to June. And there's the males. So most of the males are immigrant males, and there's quite a handful of them. We regularly see Saka, who has a big scar on his hip, and he seems to be a very, very friendly male hyena. Then we have Comet, Kaikau, Falco, Luca, Fika, and I'm probably going to forget some right now. Let me just run through the boys in my head. But yes, Koza, I always forget one, Koza. And the immigrant males come and go. They're part of the clan, but most of them are not natal males. So they weren't born in the clan. They've been born in other neighbouring clans, and they've immigrated into the Juma clan. So although the males are definitely not as important as the female, they're still integral to a clan. You need immigrant males in any hyena clan. And they're favoured not really by rank, but more so by tenure. So the longer you've been with a clan, the longer you've proven yourself to the females, the longer you are submissive, the more sort of accepted you will be, the more trusted you will be. Whereas if you're a new immigrant male, the females will be weary of you. They'll punish you. They won't automatically trust you to be around the cubs or to be around the carcass. So tenure is the most important factor when you're looking at males in a hyena clan. There's lots of fascinating studies done on the role of males because, of course, hyenas are a female-dominated society. And the study showed that females generally prefer males of a similar age. So when they're mating, they choose males that tend to be a similar age to themselves. And I guess this prevents any sort of mating interactions with fathers or sons. Maybe it's a tactic to avoid any sort of inbreeding. And the other element to the study was that females show preference for submissive, less aggressive males. The more submissive you are, the less aggressive you are, the females tend to show preference to them. But the most important factor is tenure, the length of the time that you have been with the clan. And this is a prime indicator of reproductive success. So males are not really ranked the same way that females are. Sorry, Beck, just one more time with... This exact same thing happened yesterday. Holistic, you're asking would these cubs be the same size as puppies? I think it depends what puppy you're referring to. Goodness, this is tricky. Right now, I guess they are the size of a small Jack Russell, possibly. It's very hard to gauge, I'm sorry. But they're very, very small at this stage. I'm going to go with maybe a very small Jack Russell. But yeah, they are approaching the almost 4-month mark. So they're getting older and they've changed a lot. A little bit of competition here. But in my past experience of sitting at the den with Corky's old cub Plonk, Ribbons 2, she used to have 2, she lost them both, Junes and Pretties, there was a lot of cubs around the den. And this pair here, these 2 boys, seem to show little aggression towards one another compared to other twin litters. They do fight and wrestle and tumble and play, absolutely. But in terms of aggression, it's very minimal with this pair, I feel. Anushka, I'm really not sure I understand what you mean. I'm sorry. Where did hyenas originate from? If you mean country, I believe Africa. As a continent, Africa's obviously not a country. As a continent, hyenas originated from Africa. And there's lots of extinct species of hyena. If you Google it, it's fascinating the images you will see. They look bizarre animals, much larger than what you see right now in the spotted version. And they've been grouped together as part of the order Carnivora, which is carnivores. And they're in their own little family called the Hyenidae. But there's lots of species of hyenas that used to be present that are not around anymore. So I hope that answers your question, Anushka. Okay, I'm sure many of you know my plan for today. I'm going to sit tight and hope the other little cub will make an appearance.
Ah, hang on, there we go. Something has just flown to the top of that dead tree. We were with an incredible bird party. There were so many of them. Now, there are green wood hoopoes flying around. And I'm not sure if this is a scimitable or if it's just a juvenile green wood hoopoo, because you could hear the others making a bit of noise, but now I can't see anyone else flying with it. Perhaps we've got both species of birds here, but typically the, everyone's going away. Typically the scimitables have a long, thin black beak, and the greenwood hoopoes have an orange beak, but when they're juveniles, they also have a black beak. Now I'm trying to figure out where everyone's gone onto that sort of boerbean over there. There. Okay, who have we got there? Can hear the greenwood hoopoes in the distance, but perhaps this is a scimitable, and it's just a coincidence that it's in the same party. Birds. They're hard to do when they don't sit still, unfortunately, and they are fluttering everywhere. It's actually not going to work at all. Sorry about that, but there were some yellow-fronted canaries, there were a whole bunch of quelias, there were southern black tits, There were, what else were there? There was some kind of a female weaver that I didn't get to identify, a couple of them. They were all here feeding on everything, but not wanting to sit still, I'm afraid. Sorry about that. But I suppose that's how it goes with birds. But it's proving to be a very quiet day on Pridelands. I suppose that's how it goes sometimes as well. No leopard tracks, no lion tracks other than the old ones. No impala. No nothing. But we're going to keep searching.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
So we just wanted to show you the difference in the burrows from yesterday. So the burrow that Jandre's on there now, hardly a single track on it. And that was windblown from yesterday. But then as you pan across to the left-hand side, you'll see that burrow in the middle, just how many tracks on there. And then coming closer to the one that's nearest to myself here. And it just shows you the comparison from yesterday with the wind and the active burrows that they've been using yesterday afternoon. So while we're on tracks, I just wanted to show you. So here's some really nice examples of the meerkat tracks. You got this little guy that's come out here. There's actually a couple of different sets over here, okay? And he went that direction. They're like tiny little dog tracks, but more elongated. There you can actually see the one that Jandre's got there now. There you can actually see very clearly there's the front pads, and there's the larger back pad. And then you got the little nail marks on the front over here. So that's a really nice example. And then in terms of their foraging, have a look at this set of tracks over here. So it comes in from this side. Okay, so it crosses over the one that was going that way. Okay, and then it gets to, where's my stick gone? It gets to this little hole over here. Gets this little hole over here, and it's sat here. So there's the hind foot over there. The hind foot over there. The tail is that, okay? So hind foot, tail, and then he would have been scratching in the front over there, got out whatever he went for, and then carried on going out over here. And I'm going to show you at some point in the next couple of days a good example of aardvark diggings. We spent quite a bit of time, well, we've had some good sightings of aardvark, but I'll show you the actual diggings. And bear this one in mind, and you can make a nice comparison with where you see the hind feet, the little mound of sand, and the tail, and the actual digging. Very, very similar to aardvark, but just on a different scale. Of course, an aardvark's pile of sand is huge, big, thick tail, big claw marks, but it's quite an interesting comparison. Wow, Margot has asked a really fun question there. Are meerkats left or right-handed? I'm sure they would be. I haven't seen any obvious sign that I'd be able to convincingly say to anyone or prove it to anyone and say, yeah, meerkats are definitely, but I can't see why they wouldn't be. I mean, you get this repeatedly cropping up in nature, and I know our colleagues have spoken about left or right-handed elephants as an example. So I would imagine that they would be, and they may have a preference for using one or the other. But if you look at the way they typically dig, you know, we would use one hand for eating or drinking or working with something, but the nature of their prey items and how they got to forage for it is they need to be using both hands equally, or paws, both hands. So I would imagine there is probably a left or right-handed element to it, but their normal day-to-day stuff would be just using both paws. I'd guess, unless they're making food, then they'd be mixing food with one paw sometimes. No. But yeah, that's a very good question, very interesting question. I'll actually try to find out a little bit more about that and see if anyone's got any other ideas or thinking on that. But that's just a nice little thing, a nice comparison, and try to bear this in mind when we see aardvark tracks, the tail, the hind feet, and the digging. That'll be quite fun.
I don't think that hyenas have any preference of sight. They just go full steam ahead. Niels, if we can take a look at Ribbon, I think Ribbon's the best example. One of her visible paws, shall we say. Hyenas are probably their tracks are one of my favourite to see because you see them everywhere, and they have non-retractable claws. So the nails, the claws are always out, they're always visible. There's no muscular control or sheath that brings them in and out like cats. There was an interesting article that said we shouldn't call cats retractable claws, but we should actually call them protractile claws because they don't retract them. The actual natural sitting position is in the sheath. It's a muscular contraction that brings them out. So therefore, are they retracting or are they protracting? Anyway, it was just an interesting article that I read on terminology. But hyenas' claws are always out. They're always visible, and that's how sometimes their tracks can look quite similar to a cat. They really can. But as soon as you see those claws, you know that it's from a hyena, just in case you were slightly confused. And they have very calloused feet, very, very rough feet. And the fact that their claws are out is an adaptation for them running. It gives them traction when they're running and allows them to make sharp turns because they've got quite a awkward body shape, I think. Ouchie. Long neck. They're very powerful at the front and slightly weaker at the back. And they've evolved this way. It's an energy efficient body design. But they need to be able to also move fast, escape predators and hunt. Hyenas do hunt. And that's exactly why their claws are out, for traction and to allow them to make sharp turns at any point. Hyenas sometimes look slightly bizarre when they're running. It's more of a gallop. And they have sort of evolved this long neck because they do scavenge. All hyenas scavenge. To what extent differs between different areas, different geographical locations, but they do all scavenge. So they normally need to get in there quickly and pull a carcass. And that's why they're sort of heavier set at the front with that long neck, strong shoulder muscles, strong forelimbs, and slightly weaker at the back. It's to save energy. This little one is squealing inside, squealing. Now, due to the fact that there's a small cub inside now, this hyena den's been limited to one vehicle per sighting. So that means I do have to keep my game drive radio up, I'm afraid, which you'll all hear, in order to, well, know if anyone else wants to visit. And if they do, I'll have to pull out, I'm afraid. But until then, I can stay here. Janice. They're just smelly from their lifestyle. They are scavengers. They just don't clean themselves as meticulously as cats would, for example. So leopards are very, very meticulous and almost perfectionist when it comes to their grooming, especially once they've been eating, like blood on their face. I almost burst into song there, but I didn't. It's too early for that. But they clean. And hyenas just really don't tend to do that. They don't clean. And I would say it boils down to social structure. Leopards are completely solitary. They rely so heavily on being elusive and being camouflage and stalking through the vegetation without being seen. That's pivotal in a leopard's survival. And therefore they need to clean to avoid, well, being horribly smelly, as you put it. But hyenas, they really don't have to worry about that. They don't rely on stalking, they don't rely on camouflage, they're heavy set, they're not so elegant when they walk, they're vocal, and they have clan members. So I think in terms of lifestyle and social dynamics, they don't need to worry. They're smelly, they're smelly. I don't get a smell from hyenas, it's normally after they've been feeding. Rotten flesh. And I tell this story all the time, but these two boys took an impala head into that den, and I've never seen it come back out again. And they probably sleep next to it. Yes, that's probably why they're so horribly smelly. Okay, I'm gonna sit tight and wait, unless, of course, someone else wants to join us.
So the alpha female and one other have just emerged. And exactly like we called it, yesterday was really miserable in terms of the wind and the temperature. So they probably had a limited foraging time yesterday. Now that it's a little bit warm, and it's marginally warm, it's not hugely warmer, but it is enough to make a significant difference. And they'll be out a little bit earlier, getting sun, and they'll probably head off earlier than they did yesterday. And yesterday, I mean, they only left quite a long time after we'd actually finished up here. And it's all about energy loss, energy gain. It's really finding that balance for any animal. Again, it's not a conscious decision, but it's just trying to find that balance in terms of how much time do you actually spend out there in inclement weather trying to get enough food to sustain yourself, or do you rather just stay in bed? So, well, listen, I'm going to lie here and just drink coffee and not get up. It's weighing it up and seeing what's going to work for you. So we just had a black screen there for a moment, but I think we're back. So this is the little alpha that's closest to Gendre now, closest to the camera. She was the first one up. Again, very, very typical. And perhaps, now that it's a little bit warmer, before this cold front really moves in properly, maybe it's pup day today. I don't know. All bets are off on me, I'm afraid, at the moment. Interestingly, we were walking around the... Shemi has just asked a very interesting question in terms of their social behavior. She's asking, do we think the siblings have a closer bond than the rest of the group, than the extended family? That will definitely be the case. But in small groups like this, you get these tiny little meerkat colonies, the bond between all of them would be incredibly strong nonetheless. Where you'd find that being more and more prominent would be the larger the group size gets, the stronger those immediate ties, and that would relate directly to chances of survivability in the group, and dominance hierarchies, that kind of thing. But that's a very, very good and very interesting question. That. Oh, what I was going to say earlier is we did a circuit around here, just checking for any signs of tracks of anything. There's like a lot of insects and mice, all the usual culprits. But then we went down to have a look at that porcupine burrow, which is like about 200 meters down the dune over here, hoping that there's no sign of the porcupine yet. We might try it again just now. But while we were down there, a little jackal came trotting past and trotted like right past us. I mean, we were far away from the cameras and stuff, but he came nice and relaxed, trotting up in this direction, and then he actually made a detour around to the southern side of the burrows over here. So those are the kind of things, when these meerkats come out in the morning and they're on sentry duty, these are exactly the kind of threats that they need to be on the alert for. A jackal will snaffle a meerkat in about 3 seconds if it gets half a chance. But they don't always have it their own way. The bigger the group of meerkats, the greater the likelihood is of them actually deterring predators like wildcats, jackal, caracal, things like that. Predators don't have it their own way. Everyone thinks, well, cool, the leopard's always going to be successful, and meerkats don't stand a chance. Well, if they didn't stand a chance, they wouldn't actually be here for us to view them today. We've actually seen martial eagles and swallow actually catching meerkats. People have actually got that on film. So but these eagles, I mean, they cover massive, massive, massive areas. Their territories are huge, and it's the largest eagle that we get here, and they are voracious predators on things like meerkats, monitor lizards, guinea fowl. So this little girl's got her job cut out for her. You know, she's got her work cut out. The sentry duty is a crucial part of maintaining this colony in a safe way.
Sorry, Pete, I obviously missed those. Where are they going? 1 second, everybody. Sorry, Peter, I missed those, obviously. Where are they going? So we want to enjoy these zebras just briefly while I try and figure out what's going on the radio. The leopard track's close by here. Okay, I'm just going to turn around. We're going to leave this area. Copy, thanks, Pete. I'll come and give you a hand there. There are squirrels going crazy and leopard scat on the road. And what we're going to do is just drive down the cut line here. It's right down here, close by. Pete, I'll come back that way on the fire break. And there were hyenas running around here. And I wonder if there isn't a kill in the offing. It sounds quite exciting. Sorry, everything's a little bit disorganized because it all happened quite suddenly as you came across to see us. The impala and the zebra are still around. It's the same ones we saw a little bit earlier. They don't look particularly worried by life in the slightest. And just down here, Peter from Nkoro, which is a lodge close by, has found some scat of a leopard and some tracks, and so we'll go and see if we can't give him a hand.
The moment we have all been waiting for, everyone. Corky's little one, welcome to the world. Look at that boy protecting it. Anushka, I've never actually touched a hyena, but I have heard it's quite rough. Cub-wise, I really don't know, I'm afraid. I imagine a cub's would be softer than an adult. Let's just take in this moment. This is the first time we're all getting to see Corky's little one. Do you remember when we saw these two boys at that age? And everyone, just an update, Ribbon's here. We'll show you in a moment, not right now, this is too precious, but Ribbon is here. Do not worry, she's not gone anywhere, she's just gone to the shade. Corky is not. This is a moment I have been waiting for days, everyone, and I know many of you have been too. It's very young. Our Lara Moore, good to hear your name. That's a normal progression for hyena cubs. Once they reach about 4 weeks old, they are introduced to the rest of the clan at a communal den. So this is very much a communal den. I personally believe that Corky gave birth elsewhere, and she's just joined Ribbon at the communal den. I'm going to estimate this cub is about 4 weeks, I think. And it's normal for all cubs with different mothers, different ages, to be inside the den. It's when they learn how to be physical, they learn how to play. But you'll see, the boys are really not rough with this little cub. Not compared to how rough they are with one another. Jason from Michigan, I think it's really tricky to say at this stage with such a lack of information, and I try not to speculate too much, but I really don't see any reason why Ribbon would prevent Corky from coming. I mean, it's a communal den, which is very, very normal within hyena clans, hyena dynamics, and the cubs need to be together. It's very, very important. I don't see any reason Ribbon would prevent Corky from being here. Although Corky was the matriarch and Ribbon's now the matriarch, they're still part of the same clan. They're still part of the Juma clan. They're not enemies, essentially. I just think Corky's nocturnally suckling for some reason. That was so magical. Okay, we've got a little one. I just want to quickly show you Ribbon now, if that's okay, Neil. So we'll just do a quick glance, just to show you all that Ribbon is still here. She's right there, having a snooze. Keeping a watchful eye on what's going on. So as long as there's an adult present, it's really okay to be at the den. Sorry, Rebecca, I realised that was a long question, but my earpiece fell out when I was turning around. One more time. I'll hold it in my ear. Grace, it just depends what age, just like lions, leopards, puppies, dogs, cats. So this little one that we can see, Corky's little one, it's far too young. You can see it's not very mobile. It's not walking. Sorry everyone, I have a cub under my car. Hey. Do not want that cub chewing on my tires. So yes, Corky's little one. You can see it's not very mobile. The back legs are not very well developed. It's too young to walk. It would not be able to walk from one den site to another. So Corky absolutely would pick it up by the ruff of the neck and carry it. Whereas Ribbon's ones, they can walk. They're old enough to walk. Oh. Trying not to get emotional here, everyone. I cried when I saw Ribbon's pair. See, you're gonna get to see, Grace, how not very mobile it is. It's really not mobile. It's not going to walk very well. I don't want to startle it. Oh. That was so magical. I have a big lump in my throat. I don't know why I get so emotional. I just do. Okay, let's go to the other side where double trouble are. Oh no, they're coming, they're coming, they're coming. going to sit here and hopefully we're going to get more views of this little one.
So I'm just still doing my normal pacing, just getting them accustomed to, habituated to people moving, walking around, talking. There's been a lot of meerkat talk this morning, and unfortunately just our mics can't pick it up. It's a very, very, very soft sound, and from these distances you can't hear it, unfortunately. But there's been a lot of like that at the burrows over there. So it may mean that those youngsters are close to the entrances of the burrows, but that's just absolute speculation. There's some nice burrow maintenance going on there, a little bit of digging. Oh, Lamua, you are putting me under pressure here. Okay. You've just asked for me to do like a meerkat pose. Listen, I'm not going to hang my tail out, but let me see if I can. It's like, but I need to face the sun. It's like, and then they like lean back sometimes. I'm not going to eat what they eat, unfortunately, but that's about as far as I'll go. This is actually quite nice. I can get used to this. Maybe I should just do this every morning. I'll wear my meerkat onesie tomorrow. They are very sweet animals, eh? Yes. Yeah. They say they've never seen such a awful looking meerkat in all their time on the African savannas. Mystical has asked, how cold can a meerkat get? I think that's the question. Is that correct? So, how tall? Oh, tall. How tall can a, yeah, because, yes, they can get very cold, I can tell you that. But, yeah, they're about 30 centimeters, give or take. So they're very small animals. And I love that question for this reason. So often when we are filming meerkats, when people are taking photographs of meerkats, okay, we try to do it from ground level. And ground level for photography and filming always works really, really well, because you actually get that feeling that you're there with the animals. It gives the photograph of the film their perspective. But what it also does, and that's the challenge, is if you've got no frame of reference for those animals, you haven't physically seen them yourself, it creates the impression that they're actually, excuse me, a lot larger than they are. And so many guests that I've had coming to Swallow over the years, one of the first things that always strikes them about the meerkats when we see them for the first time is, wow, these animals are a lot smaller than I imagined them to be. And that's really, our bad in terms of like the filming angle. It's like we get down low, we're having a look at them from their height, and often close-up shots. So it's very difficult to see that size, and that's why that's a really, really nice question. That, yeah. So they are small animals. It's interesting that alpha female has hardly done anything except keeping watch. Now that is the single most, or probably one of the most important functions of any meerkat is sentry duty. So I don't want to say she's only been doing watch. That's like keeps the group alive. But it is just interesting to see that she's super vigilant on duty, keeping her eyes peeled. And it's the other ones that have been doing a bit of digging and that kind of stuff and that. So that's just interesting to note. And I guess she's got so much to lose if they miss the approach of a predator in terms of these pups. And again on that, we still have no idea how many pups they've got. Dr. Rob has asked, do all meerkats eventually get the protruding canines? I haven't seen that on all meerkats. It is particularly noticeable on the older ones. But yeah, I definitely haven't seen that as a feature, and I've got thousands of meerkat pictures, and I've got plenty of pictures to verify that. But they are, and it's also, I mean, I've got a dog at home, and sometimes when she's sitting there, then her teeth stick out on the side. She's a mad dog anyway, but she's really cool. But and so sometimes you see her teeth sticking out and other times not. So I also think, like with these meerkats as well, is with these protruding canines, is when you see them walking and foraging, you don't always see those teeth sticking out. So I think it's also just the way, if the lips stuck up on the, a little bit higher up the tooth, that could just possibly be a reason for that. But it kind of gives them that like edgy look. So this breeze is now actually picking up somewhat. Not too bad, but it is definitely picking up.
We've been trying really hard this morning to see if we can possibly get those lions, but unfortunately they've given us a runaround. However, like, how special is this? We've been able to, as we were driving towards one of these open areas, we found this ostrich. I'm just trying to have a look at the colors. It does look like it is a female because of that brown color, because the males are normally very dark in color. See the way she's moving her head down there. She's probably looking for, not too sure what she might be picking up there at the moment. But I know sometimes, especially with big birds like that, sometimes they'll also pick up rocks, and that helps to just to aid with the digestive system, just to help break everything down. Let's just have a look. You can see there is a bit of a breeze that's picking up. You can also notice that by that white feathers on the ostrich, the way that it's moving now, just as the wind blows through it. You often see with ostriches, they do prefer these vast open areas, because if there's any danger, of course, there's no obstruction. They can just turn around and run. And also, it looks like this ostrich is moving into the wind. Probably just looking out for like an open area, maybe to pick up some seeds if there's anything around. Mason, it's quite interesting. I'm not too sure if there's more ostriches around, because sometimes what they do is you might find that some of the females or some of the males could be by themselves, and they're not actually part of a family unit. But what I think we'll do from here is let's just try and see if we can reposition and get another view of this ostrich. I think, let's just give it a time. It's actually moving right in front of us through a little gap. Alright, I think let's try and see if we can reposition, maybe see if there's another, like if we carry on with the road, maybe we might get another view from this side. And who knows, maybe there could be more, maybe they've just split up at the moment, but it's not a surprise to sometimes just find one or two by themselves. The other day I think we found a male, but now it looks like this might be a female. Who knows, maybe later on they could join up. Remember, the ostriches, they have quite a few predators. I mean, I've noticed in some places, especially at Ambient Pinda, I remember one of the old trackers telling me a story how cheetah used to catch ostriches, especially in the rocky area, where they would often chase these ostriches over this rocky section, and as soon as the ostrich loses its balance or falls down, then immediately that cheetah will go grab it around the neck and then of course suffocate it from there. But I mean, the young ostriches, they could be potential prey for leopard, jackal, serval, caracal, wild dogs. I mean, there's quite a few different predators. I think once they get as big as they are now, their danger or possible threat could be, of course, the lions, cheetah, wild dogs as well. Could potentially go for them. Leopard could, but I don't think I've ever heard about a record with a fully grown ostrich and a leopard. But there's always a chance. I mean, predators are very opportunistic. I think that ostrich just might have moved behind the tree. Very shy ostrich. I don't think he wants or she wants to show herself to us. Now, this is an area where there's often a little family of jackals. So what I think we'll do from here is let's leave this ostrich. It is moving away. We can't really get another glimpse of it. And maybe carry on and see if there's another chance of possibly finding, of course, a jackal or maybe something else. It's been a really quiet morning. There's hardly been any impala even this morning. Douglas, I'm not too sure about the story where it all comes from. What I'd like to do is definitely follow up in regards to why an ostrich would do that, or where the story comes from, and then hopefully get back to you. But if any of our viewers know a lovely story, or a story that their grandparents told them, or any of their relatives or friends, I would love to know a little bit more about it. But I'll definitely think I'll go and read up about that. I'm not too sure. I know seeing it in cartoons quite a bit, but I don't think I've ever seen it in the wild.
We've got a water pig. Nothing has turned up around the leopard tracks on account of the fact that leopard tracks went into the reserve to the south of us, and so we've been unable to follow up on them. But we'll keep driving around here in case they perhaps cross back towards where we are. As per usual, the water pig is utterly terrified of the vehicles, like the buffalo in the area, completely bemused by this fact, and by the terror displayed by buffalo and warthogs. He just can't believe we haven't moved away or moved towards him or done anything. It's just this great big eye on the back of the vehicle that keeps following him wherever he goes. Must be deeply confusing. No, that's enough. He's had enough. Faith, by the time he started to run with his tail up, it's probably too late to try and avoid being seen by predators. But yeah, I guess the advantages of it being a signaling device to other warthogs outweigh the disadvantages of it being a signaling device to predators. Remember that when a warthog is killed, it is normally grabbed as it comes out of a burrow. It is very seldom chased down in a long grass environment. So I guess where that would happen would be a place like the Mara, but normally it's ambushed. So it's not like there are prolonged chases where it goes herring off through the bush with its tail up and a predator chases it for an extended period following the tail. And so I think you'll find that although, yes, intuitively it doesn't make a huge amount of sense for it to walk with its tail up, I think you'll probably find that the number of times that it's actually been a disadvantage predator-wise are probably fairly limited. Nice, calming down a bit. Well, Kiki, they're not warts, as in they're not caused by the virus that causes warts on human beings. They're just kind of relatively ugly protuberances that occur on the face. And in the case of the males, there are 2 sets, and the females 1 set, and they're designed to protect the face. Especially when the boars set to each other. Jenny Hukamuri, no, I'd say that that's very unlikely that warthogs would eat their babies in the wild like they do in captivity. I had no idea that warthogs ate their babies in captivity. Are we sure that that's the case? I'm pretty sure they don't do it here. And I suspect that the reason that they do it in places like where warthogs are in captivity is that they are in an unnatural situation where they're either not being fed properly or they're stressed or inbred or something like that. These are the same zebra we had earlier, and in fact last night, in the same spot. There are people now driving all around this area looking for these leopard tracks that we had, but we can't find what's going on. So we'll continue the search.
We have a little bee eater, one of my favorite birds. Now we have... No. Niels is right here. Now we had to leave the hyena den, I'm afraid. Someone else wanted to visit, and as I mentioned, it's a 1-vehicle sighting at the moment. Right on top. I'll point it out to you. No, I can't see it. Up. There you go. Little bee eaters are in my top 10. I think I always find it really challenging choosing my favorite birds because there's so many. But I think little bee eaters make my top 10. The sexes are extremely alike. I'm really not sure. Well, yeah, I think it's impossible to say from here whether this one is male or female. And they claim the title of being the world's smallest bee eater. They've got a little award hanging on their favourite tree for being the world's smallest bee eater. Hence the name Little Bee Eater. I like that name. I don't like the name the brown-headed parrot. But that's another story. It's a local common resident. It's not a rare bird. And what that means is they're here all year round. They don't migrate, they don't leave their residence. They're here to stay. Their behaviour changes slightly though, so they're more nomadic when they're not in their breeding season, and compared to the sort of when they're in the breeding season, they'll be a lot more gregarious and you'll find them all together. I think that name was Buddy. I hope I got that right. You're asking how many eggs do they lay? I have no idea, but I will check my bird app. Eggs between 2 to 6. So I would guess on average 4, right in the middle. Anywhere between 2 to 6 eggs. And apparently, when they're first laid, they're a translucent pinkish colour. Later they turn opaque and then chalky white. There you go. Incubation period of 20 days, so 3 weeks. Cassandra, I really don't know the speed that bee eaters fly at. I'm sorry, I don't have the speed of how fast birds fly. But yes, I guess they fly fast. They're insectivorous, and hence the name. They do eat bees. They do capture insects, and they're said to catch them in flight. So what that means is they have to have some sort of advantage over a very fast buzzing bee. So yes, I do think that they fly very, very fast, but they don't need to migrate. They don't need to travel great distances. So they'll have quick, short bursts of flight. And capturing insects mid-air, I imagine, will not be very easy. And off they go, hopefully to catch some bees. There's not that many insects around in comparison to summer, so it does take its toll on the birds here as well. And you will find many of the sort of resident birds that don't migrate, who stay here, will have to adapt their diet slightly. You may find them eating sort of prey species that are slightly unusual because they have no choice. So I'm going to do a big ginormous loop, see what else I can find. I can see a big birdie over there we're going to visit, and then eventually end back at the hyena den.
So it's getting more and more exciting now because we've been hearing these calls, and I know it must be incredibly frustrating sitting on the other side there and you can't hear them, but they are very, very, very soft, very gentle calls that they've been making at the burrow entrance. So I really think now these pups are coming right out to the entrance of the burrow. So I think they are right there. But what we're not going to fall into the trap of being like, oh, let's try to get closer and closer and closer to see them. Okay, that's not right. It's not ethical to do that. So we're going to do exactly what we've done. We've got a plan. We know what we're going to try achieve here. So I think just spending time with these meerkats, if they are that close to the entrance, they're that close to coming out, it's going to be very, very, very soon before they'll be actually up on the lips of these burrow entrances and that. So I know it must be frustrating, but just bear with me, stick with us. I think it's going to be I know it's going to be totally worthwhile. And I'm spending a little bit more time actually moving around. I really just want, when the pups come out, to be as relaxed as possible. Betsy has just asked a question, and we were asked it by another viewer a little while back, and I don't have an answer for it. But the question is, why are meerkat youngsters called pups and not kittens? These are actually the mongoose family. They're actually more closely related to dogs than to cats. That's literally the best explanation I can give you for now. But yeah, so they are definitely pups. They're not kittens. And I think the confusion may creep in with the word meerkat. That can often lead one to think, well, they are some kind of cats. They're definitely not. These are mongoose. So all the mongoose family is pups, not cats, not kittens. Sorry, I don't have a better answer for that. And I can try to find out more info, but I'm pretty sure that's it. Yes, I'm getting so excited now. Yes, and it's been a long road that we've walked, eh? It's now over 3 weeks. So, I was saying, they're out at 2 weeks. So, yeah, they'll be out, they'll be around the burrow entrance, but not necessarily sitting out and exposed to the elements. And especially, now that we are in winter, I think we've spoken about it before, that Their peak breeding time is in summer. Victoria has asked, what are the key features one should focus on to ID meerkats? So I'm assuming that you mean, okay, we already know that is a meerkat. We know what that meerkat looks like. But you're talking about individual meerkats within a group. So yeah, there's a couple of things there. On a group like this that's very, very small, it's pretty straightforward, pretty easy. You know the dominant female is, the dominant males, the sub-adults. So it's quite easy. The challenge is rather these bigger groups. So when you're getting 20, 30, 40 meerkats at a time, that's when it becomes progressively more and more difficult to recognize individuals. But you'll still use things like we do on a lot of other animals, scars, broken tails, a skew leg. We actually had one meerkat here once with a very, very skew foot that was actually broken. We don't know how. You can get a little bit of hair loss on things. There's any number of signs that can identify meerkats. You can get broken canines occasionally. You can get scarring across the face from fighting. So we just use those kind of things to identify individuals. But on a group like this, where it's a very, very small group, it becomes just easier and easier to identify them. You can, if you had to look really closely, but it's seldom that you'd ever sit and do that. You could actually also look at whisker patterns, I'd assume. If you had to look at the stripe pattern on the back, you could probably... There's a jackal in the background. That's what they're looking at. Look at the jackal coming in here. Look there. Remember I was saying, look at this, look at this. On the alert, immediately these meerkats are on the alert. There he goes there. This is incredible. This is unbelievable. That we were just talking about it. He's just passed out of frame now. He's going to come out to the right-hand side. But again, these meerkats didn't offer an alarm call or anything, but they were super vigilant. They twigged onto that, and I was just watching their behavior. I didn't even see that jackal. Just watching their behavior told us there's something going on here. Wowzers. That is fantastic. And we were just talking about the presence of the jackal in the area earlier, and there he makes an appearance. Oh, that's just made it. That is fantastic to see. But I loved the reaction of the meerkats when they saw it. And you can see he's just trotting off very calmly in the distance there. He's on a bit of a territorial patrol now, and he'll obviously, if he finds anything to eat, he'll go for it. But he's more just doing his little territorial patrol. He'll be stopping, scent marking. But the reaction of the meerkats there, they recognize it immediately as a potential threat. But more importantly, they recognized that it's not an immediate threat. And there's a big difference there. A potential threat to an immediate threat. They were onto that in a flash. They reacted, but they didn't give any alarm calls. If that jackal was actually approaching the burrow or it snuck out close by, they would have been given a high-pitched bark, and they would have all bolted down the burrows. But that was a controlled, measured response to a known predator. That was just beautiful to see. So I love these moments. I absolutely love these little moments that you're not expecting, but suddenly whew, it unfolds and it's happening.
So with this morning, I heard it's been quite quiet over all the different reserves, and I don't know if it has anything to do with the weather or maybe the animals are having a bit of a lie-in this morning. I'm not too sure, but what I do know is that with it warming up, there's a good chance that the animals will start moving towards, and I can imagine how being winter time and the water is very concentrated in certain areas, it might be that the animals would eventually move quite far to get to where the water is, and that's why we might not necessarily see the animals around at the moment. They could have already gone to the water. It's warming up a bit now. Could be in areas where there's a bit more food. Not too sure, but I think what we'll do from here is we're going to explore some of the areas near the river where there's of course a chance of maybe seeing leopard. There's a chance there could be some giraffes. Giraffes are also a really special animal for me to see, as well as zebra. Of course, if I see zebra, I'm a happy man. And I haven't seen them this morning, so that's not too good. but we're going to definitely keep a good lookout. Now, there's quite a few tracks on the road. We've seen tracks of lions, but they're not too fresh. Looks like there was some male lions that moved through the area, so we're keeping a good lookout as we are making our way through here. But also looking out for anything else that we can possibly find. We're still looking out for that porcupine, that request of seeing a porcupine late in the day. I won't say it's going to be an easy find, but if we do see a quill or something, we'll definitely keep a lookout. Yeah, and whatever else we might find. We tried also for some jackal this morning, but they were hiding away. The ostrich was the only one. She definitely wanted to come show us her feathers. We'll carry on here and just see if there's any other signs. Now, with the river, often you can imagine with some of the elephants digging for water, there's these little puddles of water for animals to go and drink. So it could be little impala that can go and drink, could be some zebra. Yesterday we found some wildebeest. You don't really find them going down into the deep ones because they can't get down to drink, but as soon as there's quite a wide or a big hole where they can just get down and have a drink, they'll use that, but probably head to more permanent water sources. And so we'll carry on along the river, see if there's any of these beautiful animals that might come down, or even from the river going up. And so beautiful road just to go and explore. So I was just thinking while we're driving here, there's a few interesting trees, and I always love Marsha, I would say the best time of the year is just any time. Like as soon as someone can visit, it's absolutely amazing. But I do know in terms of a scenic experience, normally in the summertime it's beautiful because of the rain, everything's lush and green, the beautiful mountains, you get beautiful sunsets. Also in the winter, but the thing in the winter time, often because it is a lot dry, you see more animals. So in terms of a game viewing perspective, probably in the winter time is one of the best times. But I would say all year round it's a nice opportunity to look for them. Now I just wanted to stop here. There's a few interesting trees. I might just stop at this one right over here. Now, so in this area, there's quite a few of these particular trees, and they're known as a russet bush willow. So some of the old people and the old trackers, you'll find them always walking with a walking stick or like quite a nice sturdy cane. And that's made from this tree here. So some of the branches are quite straight. So what they used to do is just take these little branches, just chop them off, and then use that straight pole and then slowly bend it. As it's starting to dry, they'll bend it until they can make like a nice walking stick. I actually made a walking stick the other day. I should have actually brought it with. But there's quite a few of them if we just move to this side here. So this tree right over here. Now imagine a branch like this, and you had one longer that you can almost like shape it up and to make a beautiful walking stick. Also, another thing is you can make a bow and arrow, especially the bow from a tree like that. And it's a really hard wood as well, very dense. Just having a look around and see if there's any other. Oh, and I just wanted to take the seeds here. So one of the things about, I'm just going to hold it like this just for the light. But one of the things about a bush willow is you'll notice that the seeds have these 4 wings on it. And so often you can imagine now, let's say the wind had to blow through this area here, and then immediately as soon as these like fruits drop, because of the wings of it, it helps to disperse it. So that's one of the ways that this tree can be dispersed. But very interesting tree. Now the other one that's very close to this is the one that, remember the other day we had a bit of an episode about the red bush willow, which looks very similar to this, but the bush willow family, this is the characteristic of it. But you can actually take the leaves and boil it and make quite a nice tea out of it. But yeah, just wanted to show you that seed for now. But let's carry on. As I'm doing all of this, I'm trying to listen to hear if I can hear any other noises around us. I can only hear some francolins in the distance, which is also really nice to hear. I do love birding. Cassandra, I do know, but I don't know about my pronunciation though. So it's called Cumbritum herurunse. So I don't know how to spell herurunse. But if you just type russet bush willow, Cumbritum, I think just H, it should get you herurunse. But as I said, the spelling and the pronunciation, I don't even know if I do it right. I'm never had Latin classes, but I think it's more or less pronounced like that. And yeah, there's also another one. So the red bush willow is called Combretum apiculatum. But where the name Combretum comes from, so Combretum, so remember we talked about genus and species names. So genus is like a surname. So for example, my surname is Muller. So there's a lot of Millers around, but there's only one NIKKI in the family. And so with the trees, the Combretum is the surname and the species is the name. So the Combretum family means a four-winged fruit. And remember we said that's a characteristic of that particular tree. So you can actually see these groves as we are moving through. This is all the Combretum trees. I'm just going to stop here. You might notice a lot of the fruits up on this one's off to the right. Just notice the colors of the leaves are slowly starting to change, but you'll notice the bit of black in between, and that's the seeds. There we go. But a really nice tree, and this area is particularly near the river. You find a lot of these trees around. There's another tree here while we're on the trees. So there was one the other day we spoke about. So just from just the uses of the trees in this area. So this one here is one of the guarri bushes. So this is the one that you can actually peel the outer bark and then use it as a toothbrush. So you just peel the outer bark. I think the very first time we started with working with Wild Earth, I think I showed everyone how to do that. So you just basically peel it off like this. I'm just going to move slightly closer, and you'll see here, like you just expose that top here, and then you can chew this. And basically, it forms like a little brush. Okay, and of course, the longer you chew it, the softer the brush. Like now, I might just take off more skin than anything. But then you can use that, mix it a bit with wood ash, and actually use it as a toothbrush. So that's one way to use this particular tree. And then there's another interesting tree here. This is the one that I wanted to stop for. So I'm just going to ask Owen to slowly follow me as I move around here. Now this here, there's quite a bit of the leaves that's already off of it. But if I had to take the leaves here and I had to just pick a few, just to show everyone. Okay, so I'm just going to move a little bit closer here and just stand like this so the sun is in the way. So if you look at these leaves here, they're very soft, and of course the more you can grab, the better. But if you had to be in a survival situation and you didn't have anything like a pillow, you can take all these leaves, like put it in a sock and actually use it as a pillow. Another thing is, a lot of them could be a very nice toilet paper, especially if you had to be stranded and you didn't have anywhere to go. That could be well used, nice and soft, it does the job. And it is, I don't know if I said the name, but it's called the African wattle tree. So that's the leaves of the African wattle. Now what is believed though about this tree, what's also amazing about it, so the local language that is spoken here is from a tribe known as the Shangans. Now the Shangan ladies, when they went out to go and harvest berries or maybe go and collect water, they used to take the leaves of this tree and put it in their pockets, because they believed if you take the leaves of the tree and keep it in your pockets, you're not going to encounter any potentially dangerous animal on your walk. So they used to collect a lot of these leaves and put them together. Now I'm going to throw this away because I do want to see a potentially dangerous animal as we carry on.
We are trying to find some elephants that we heard. The leopard tracks went south of us. We heard some elephants going. We came to where we thought we had heard them, and naturally we can see absolutely nothing. Now I don't know if this is because the wind is blowing and therefore we got a dodgy direction from our ears, but normally it's not that hard to find them when they are shouting at each other. So, I don't know. What we shall do is drive down into the Mulwati and we'll head up towards the north, as we have not investigated that area today. We seem to have investigated most of the rest of Djuma on the southeastern side this morning. I believe you've been doing some trees. I would strongly advise you to never ever use the weeping wattle as a substitute for loo paper. I don't know who's ever used it for that. I suspect they got very dirty hands if they did, because their leaves are very small and totally ill-suited for that purpose. The kind of leaves that don't stay on the stalk. You know, if you shake the leaf, the leaflets come off. And so you're likely to have quite a lot of weeping wattle on your person, subject to its use. Which I think sounds very unpleasant indeed. Anyway, I shan't say any more on that subject. Let's go up here and have another listen and see if we can hear the elephants. I believe we don't have any signal here for some reason. That's very strange. Let's go to Lauren.
I have signal. Now, there's a tree on the road. I'm just making a conscious decision whether to drive over it or go around. I don't want to go around because you really shouldn't, but I also don't want to get stuck. Tandy Cat the other day, my goodness, we got so stuck. Having James, Hendry and David Easter come and rescue you with lots of tools in their hand was really something. I took a lot of photos as evidence, don't worry. Okay, we made it. I'm a lot more cautious now. So quick update, we are looping back to the hyena den. I haven't had an update that it's free yet, but we're going to try. But there's vultures. James actually saw them yesterday and they're still in the same tree. So normally vultures do wait to ride the thermals because they're heavy birds. So by riding the air pockets, warm air rises in the sun. So by riding the air pockets, they actually save 3 times the amount of energy than flapping flight. That's what they call it, flapping flight. Flappage, because their wings are heavy. It takes a lot more energy to power their heavy bodies. So sometimes vultures can just be in a tree because they're waiting for the thermals, but if you see lots of them, that could be a hint that something is going on. And when we drove in, they got scared, so they flew off and they circled back to the exact same tree, which tells me something is going on. They don't want to leave that tree. We searched and we searched. Niels is still on the back, thank goodness. It's not easy off-roading in these blocks, and I can't smell anything and I can't see anything, but something's there. Renee, you're asking a very, very good question. Just spotted another bird up here. Very soon. I'm not sure what details I can give you right now, but it will be happening before I leave. My last day is on the 12th, and we will be naming the 2 cubs. Not Corky's one, is too young, but we will be naming the Ribbons boys. We've got a selection of beautiful Shangaan names that have been, well, really, really carefully chosen by the Djuma team. People like Aubrey and Fanwell and the Trackers and Michelle have selected some wonderful names, and they will be put to the vote. I'll hopefully give you more details on that very shortly. And then they will get wonderful little names instead of just calling them Double Trouble, Double and Trouble, or Terrible Twosome. No, I'm joking. They're not really trouble. I'm just teasing when I say that. But yes, they're going to get named very soon. So stay tuned. It's going to be exciting, and it will happen very, very soon. I'm so glad I got to share Corky's cub with you all before I go. James and I will be departing, and Trishala and Steve will come in, which is great news. But I'm really glad I got to finish that story and finally show you that there really is a cub inside and I'm not going crazy. Okay, I am going to look back to the hyena den now. I will need to check that it's available. There's a lot of traffic now, a lot of vehicles, since we're sort of a lot of people in South Africa are able to travel a bit more now, and restrictions have eased marginally. So that's why there's been a place of one vehicle, because the cub is very small, that young one, as you all saw. We won't be able to sex it for a while. I think another few months before we can try and sex that cub. And again, it will involve a lot of, well, genital close-ups, shall we say. But it would really be fantastic if Corky has produced a girl. Her last offspring was Plonk, and Plonk was a boy. And we really need some females in this clan. There's only 5 adult females. Most likely, Ribbon's boys, when they reach around 2 years old, they'll disperse. That's very, very common. We really need some females in this clan. Females stay, males disperse. Okay, let me just quickly check this junction. Hyena. Actually, I'm going to point out a hyena track to you because I was mentioning it earlier. Okay, here we go. Niels, are you ready for a track? I hope I've positioned myself okay. No, I haven't. Brian, I'm not sure what you mean by adopt, but the cubs are very much part of the clan. There's no allo-suckling to happen, so no one can suckle the cubs, but they will very much be looked after by the rest of the clan. But they need mum's milk right now. Can you see these ones, Neil? There we go. So yes, they'll be very much looked after by the clan. No one will harm them. They'll share meats with them. But at this stage, they need the milk, I'm afraid. So just want to touch on fresh hyena tracks. You can see here, very much looks like hyena. They don't look like cat in this particular track because you see right here, that's the claws. So immediately you know it's not an animal with retractable claws. So straight away you can say, aha, this is most likely hyena. You can also tell by the shape. They've got very, very fat, bulbousy pads. And I always think that a hyena track sort of creates this beautiful shape. I don't know what you call that. Whereas leopards and lions, not so much. And you will not see claw marks in leopards and lions unless they're running or doing something with lots of activity. So straight away, when you see these really sharp tips with the claws, you know, hyena track. And because I was talking about that earlier, I thought that that is a perfect example to show you to tie in with the story. So the cubs are part of the clan. They don't need to be adopted in any way, shape or form. They're very much part of it. The problem would be if something happened to Ribbon or Corky, the issue would be milk because they don't allo-suckle. And as far as we know, only Ribbon and Corky are lactating. And therefore there's no one else with milk. Okay, I'm making my way there now and hopefully we'll be able to get some space.
How lovely is this male giraffe? So early on, we didn't see too many animals, but of course then the giraffe... Oh, there's actually another giraffe just moving in from the back there. And it does look like this one might be staring at something. So it is a male just based on the... just the shape of the head and the horns and the overall body, as well as the one in the back. But this one, just have a look at the face, how intently it's staring in that almost on our right hand side in this direction. And I wonder if there's maybe other giraffes behind us somewhere. We can't see because of the tall trees, but definitely this one would be able to have that vantage point spot. But have a look at those beautiful long eyelashes and even the movement of the mouth. Now what I want us to do is, so that giraffe swallow, just have a look at the neck. We might just see, some of the cud coming back into its mouth. Now, it's hard to direct this because there's often so much that happens. So I'm going to try, just quickly cleaning his nostrils there. So So I want to try and explain just a few interesting things about the giraffe, because I often feel like when we look at giraffe, there's always a story behind them. Each and every individual has a story based on their scars. Maybe, like, I think what we can do is, Owen, if I ask if we can start at the knees of this giraffe, like just to start off, I think on that right knee of his, or the one that we see on the right, his left knee. So you'll notice with giraffes, often if they go and lie down, they have to go down on their knees first. So look at how calloused the knees are. You might even notice there's a little bit of the skin that's off. So if they go and they lie down, they'll first go onto their knees and then lower their back, and then they'll sit upright. He's now just disappearing behind this little bush here. But if we then move towards his face, I mean, even looking at his general face as well as his ears and his horns, like if you notice, there's not a lot of scars. And because of that, it tells me that it's still probably a young male that hasn't been in too many fights. Just look at the way that he's moving. Oh, quickly just cleaning. And even look at that upper lip, how much longer it is in comparison to the lower lip. I think he's just going to move in an angle where it might be difficult for us to see it. So what I'm going to try and do, though, is just reposition the vehicle. Right, I just want to make sure that I don't drive over anything while I reposition. So I'm just going to, all I'm going to do is just give it a left hard down. Cassandra, with the giraffes, especially with any animal that needs to, like, specifically eat hard material, like possibly grass or maybe even leaves, it's like quite hard to break down because of the cellulose in that inside of it. So one way to do it is by grinding it sideways. So I'll continue my thought right now, but before we do that, I just quickly want to send you across to a very special bird.
Look at this beautiful bird we have here. And it's hunting the quail. And I saw the quail first, and then suddenly this thing came up. And the quail was obviously being stalked by this gabar goshawk. And to have the goshawk this close to us is phenomenal, because they normally don't sit close to us at all. And somewhere in the grass below us is a poor little quail, sitting as still as possible, hoping it won't be seen. If it so much as thinks about moving now, it's going to be in trouble. And I don't know why this bird, I suspect the bird is being so confiding for us, because it's hoping to get its food. Isn't that magnificent? You see, yeah, Poppin, it is completely stunning. To have a bird like this close is spectacular. I mean, it's not more than 12 meters or so from us. I think I can see the quail. Let me just get my binoculars out. I think it is frozen in the grass just below us. Either that or it's a bit of dung that looks like a quail. No, it is the quail. This is amazing. This is absolutely unbelievable. BK, you'll get it. Can you see this long bit of grass here where I'm pointing? There, yeah. Just straight down there. If you point the camera there, I'll guide you from there. Just do it very slowly. Just zoom out. Come to the left a bit. That's it. Right, zoom in. Zoom in now. Okay, stop there. I'm just trying to find exactly for BK where we are. Okay. Right, down a bit, tilt down a bit. It's pretty much in the middle of frame now. So zoom in there as far as you can. I know I can't see because of the reflection on the screen. There, just moved. Did you see it move? Okay, well done. Well done. Okay, I think it knows it's been spotted. I'm watching the goshawk. The goshawk hasn't seen it. Isn't that spectacular? And look at the gorgeous colours. That, as far as I'm aware, is a Currican button quail. Here we go. Here's the birds on the ground. Just move very slowly, BK. The birds on the ground below us. Oh, it's coming towards the quail now. It's trying to flush it now. Now what it's trying to do is make it move. But it didn't want to come too close to us. Ooh, this is quite a scene unfolding here. The bird's getting irritated. By the bird, I mean the raptor. Because, of course, the quail is also a bird. High beyond, I think all of our goshawks have got barred chests, yes. I don't know about all of them worldwide. This is absolutely fascinating, isn't it? I've lost the quail now. Can you still see it, BK? Oh no, it's still there. I think it's still there. Okay, now the bird there, goshawk's down again. Nice and slow, BK, nice and slow. Yeah, you're a bit cold there, my friend. You're going to have to move close towards us. I can't move. Oh, I can't move now, obviously, because I'm going to totally upset the scene. I would quite like to be a little bit further away than this. But isn't it? It's also interesting how patient the goshawk is being, because it knows that there's something here. It saw it. See where it's sitting there, BK? It's just behind. Slowly, 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 slowly. It's just behind us there. You see it? Not far off now. Yeah, it's so close now. It's now so close. And we have to move very carefully not to chase it off. No, it got a fright from us. It's impossible for it not to get a fright if we're moving. and it's impossible for us not to move and get it in picture. It might have a better chance from where it is now. Joy, this bird is it's just under a foot long. It's probably a foot long from the tip of its beak to the tip of its tail. So it's not very big. It's a small goshawk. And the quail, probably only about 6 inches long. I think that quail can be very, very happy that we came along when we did. It's still right in front of us. I can't see it anymore, but I think it's got into some more cover. It's in here, young goshawk. And off it goes. Yeah, Faith, they certainly are very pretty colours on the goshawk. What an amazing sighting, hey? Gee. It's gone now. We'll have to go look for another quail. If you just put the camera over here, BK, and I'll just move and I'll show you that we'll flush the quail now that we know that it's not in any real danger. See how close we have to get to flush it, unless it's moved away from here. It's gone. It has somehow snuck away without us even seeing it go. So it was right there. Well done, Mr. Quail. You're very, very clever. Somewhere in here. Very cool. Right, we'll continue up towards the north. I'm not sure where you're going.
Good morning, everyone. That is Dumi from and Beyond Pinda Private Game Reserve. Here behind the camera, you have Marcel. He is the one doing everything, as you can see on the screen. So we just luckily found some cheetah with the 2 cubs, which is very, very lovely start with us from this morning. Looks like a beautiful day. She looks like she's a bit more hungry today. She must be a bit more active trying to hunt to feed the cubs. Let's see what's going to happen. So we'll just see it here and watch what's going to happen around. We just find them a bit mobile, and now they're going stationary because they just find some nice shade. I think also that gives them the chance to be able to listen if there's anything around or smell if there's any prey. Kenneth, this cub's about 6 to 7 months old. They're still young, so they still have more to grow. So they look lovely, Kenneth. Yeah, like that. They all looking where they come from now. They're just looking if there's anything coming. So. Remember we drove here earlier, there was some impala hanging around this place. Well, let's hope they must be start again getting up and move, see what's going to happen. Maybe they'll come across some lucky. Oh, let's hope it's going to happen like that. This is a lovely morning, as you can see. Look very quiet down here, but further back, where behind these bushes, there is a herd of impala, which is good. Also, the wind supporting the cheetahs. If they're getting up and again moving, they'll come across the impala without knowing they are coming. So we'll see. But they must be been covering long distance hunting. As you can see today, they're very slim, which is good. A full bow. This is a female with a bigger caps. Full bow. Yeah, the other small cups much smaller than these two. So yeah, I think she must be getting some rest for now, because it's not very hot. They must still continue for hunting, and as you know, they only disturbed by the heat. If it's not too hot, they can hunt until they get something. Butterfly, yeah, that is a good question. We have some very interesting cheetah litter with here in Peanut this time of the year. I haven't really seen those cubs yet, but other guys have been seeing them already further northern part of the reserve. A female cheetah there, she has 6 cubs, which is a bigger litter for cheetah. Normally we have like cheetah with 4 to 3, 2. Like that female, she started 4. She lost 2 of them. So butterfly, that is a big litter we have at the moment is 6 cubs. So that's what they can get. Now these cubs, they're all now facing different direction, which is good. So that's how I'll help them if there's anything come around, so they can warn each other and start hunting it or run away. Morgan, in a wild like this, they have very short lifespan, because we have other predators top of the food chain like lion, leopard, and hyenas. Cheetah will be bottom for those. If they come across one of those, the age of like 11 to 12, it's a very good life. But yeah, if we put them in a place like an enclosure, yes, they can live longer than that, maybe easily 17 to 18 years. But in the wild, it's very short span, as I explained. Morgan, yeah, that's what I say, lifespan like. Look how cute when she's turning over like that. Wow, it is amazing to see in a beautiful sunlight like this, where she's my favorite sight in the morning. It's amazing to see they're still looking for something, but there's food everywhere around this area. So they you can think it's very easy for them to catch or something, because as you know, cheetahs is fast mammal in land, but they have to work hard, use a very good technique to also to catch something. What is good about this place is very good cover for them to also to use. Rivka, if you notice, if you ever seen a leopard or lion, they have a white marking, because they nocturnal animals, they hunt more at night, so they can also have more light on the eyes. These also help, because cheetah, the diurnal animals, they hunt only in the daylight, so they actually help to be able to see even from a distance. Otherwise, it brings too much light into their eyes. That is like a kind of what I can explain, like a kind of dim to their. Okay, so that's what they lack.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
Yes, I just had the sweetest moment. The little alpha female walked right up to me. Excuse me, just came past me to my left-hand side over here, and she's just moved around behind me over here, completely unconcerned, so relaxed, just busy feeding, doing a lot of digging around. So I think these other meerkats are going to be going out shortly. You'll see the one standing on the mound over there. This one right here has actually been kicking up a huge amount of sand, doing a lot of digging on that. Look, watch. It's actually sweet. Look at that wind kicking that sand up. Oh, that is gorgeous, man. Wow. And that is a very good example of burrow maintenance. They'll go way down the burrow, dig sand out onto the burrow edge, onto this mound of sand, and then kick it back from there, just to make sure that those holes are maintained in mint condition. Yeah, I've got a frog in my throat this morning. It's a great tree frog, burrowing frog. Actually, speaking of frogs, in summer these meerkats will actually eat frogs. We've actually seen them. We've got these beautiful little big round fat little frogs called rain frogs, and they will actually roll them around, getting all this mucus off them, this slime that they give off as a defense thing. And once they've done that, and these frogs actually blow themselves up, they puff up into a ball and they make these squeaking sounds. But meerkats will actually eat them. So just anecdotally about frogs. But at the moment, so in fact, just out of interest, this environment that we're seeing that's so dry and barren at the moment, as we're sitting at the moment, there are frogs underneath the sand. How crazy cool is that? But they'd need rain before they actually start emerging. Okay, here's another one moving out foraging now. And I love this to and fro from the burrow. Hunters asked, are these the rock stars? That's correct, this is the rock star group. The Xhosa group that we had followed initially, before what I term the badger story or the badger incident, they further to the east of where we are here. Well, that was interesting. Oh, that was starlings that flew overhead. Something startled them. I think it was those starlings. The alpha female is still very unconcerned. She just sat up kind of like, yeah, nothing too, and the others have come out now as well. So, but it just shows how alert they've got to be. And this is that point when they're leaving this burrow. They've got their shelter there, their safety net there, and they're moving away. That's probably the single biggest point of risk to these little meerkats, because they have no idea what's up around this burrow.
we have got a green-backed heron here doing some, well, I'd like to say fishing, but foraging. I don't think there are any fish here, so I think he's probably strictly on an insect diet at the moment. I doubt there are many tadpoles or frogs, so he's making do with his winter forage. Nasty wind has come up from the northwest. It's not a very cold wind, but it is definitely indicating that it's time to head home to have some breakfast. I've got something there, bit of a swallow. It's a really nice view of him actually. They're normally very secretive, or they can be very secretive, and if they're fishing they're quite often in some pretty thick bush. Maiden, feathers in and of themselves are not waterproof, but feathers covered in oil by birds that want them to be waterproof are very waterproof. So you'll find that this bird's feathers are very waterproof because of the oil that they spread on them from the preening glands, but the feathers of a bird like a darter are not waterproof. They in fact like their feathers to become saturated with water so that they can sink. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Thank you for your questions and comments today. We had a very pleasant morning out in the winter. We'll see you again this afternoon at 1500 hours. Until then, enjoy your Friday. Bye-bye.